Welcome back to another episode of STEM in Stilettos. This is your host, Sophia Morales, and today we are going to talk about mental toughness, or the mindset of a fighter. If you have ever felt like the world is pushing you around, you've arrived in the right place today, because we're going to give you the insight into what it takes to take on the world, because that's sometimes what you need to do as a founder and as an innovator. Our guest today, Amanda Sima, is an entrepreneur, business owner, and patented inventor known for building and scaling companies while challenging the outdated industry norms. She's founded a collegiate apparel company that secured over 150 NCAA licenses and expanded into thousands of SKUs on Amazon, establishing a strong presence in a highly competitive market. As an inventor, Amanda developed and patented a spill-proof lid, an innovation born from solving the simple but widespread consumer problem of dining out with toddlers. That success led her into a high-stakes, multi-jurisdictional legal battle involving international property rights and professional accountability. Through this experience, Amanda has become an advocate for entrepreneurs, using her platform to raise awareness about the risks that innovators face and the importance of protecting original ideas. Welcome, Amanda. I'm so happy to have you here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
So tell me a little bit about your backstory, because I know a lot of people are going to listen to that introduction and go, oh my heavens, I could never do anything like that. And I know we all grow into these things one step at a time. How'd you end up there?
For sure. I graduated from The Ohio State University in 2005 with a very, very useful history degree.
Yes, I'm sure your parents were thrilled.
Yeah. I majored in history thinking I was going to go to law school, and very quickly found out after my first pre-law class that was not the path for me. And so I had a history professor, thankfully, who asked what I was going to do with my degree. And I said, it's funny that you ask, because I just pivoted away from law and I'm not really sure. And I said, I'm interested in politics. And she's like, at the time there was a giant gubernatorial race going on in Ohio. And she said, I know one of the campaign managers for one of the front runners in the primary, and I can connect you. And yeah, I called him up. I said, hey, I'd love to volunteer. They gave me a job on the spot. And they threw
Those
me.
are the easiest jobs to land right there.
Oh.
Don't pay me anything. I'll just show up at work.
Yeah, they're like, we can pay you $25,000 a year. Does that work for you? I'm like, absolutely. Like, I didn't even care. I just was like thrilled to get a job because, like I said, I had sort of this worthless degree, but they hired me on the spot and they threw me into fundraising. And so through fundraising, I obviously met people from all walks of life who were self-made and achieved financial freedom through entrepreneurship. And I'd always kind of been a creator, I would say,
Yeah.
but I never really in my mind built like how you could make a living creating until I saw and met and spoke with these people.
Yeah.
And
Well,
at that point, yeah.
and they say that your network kind of tends to translate into your net worth ultimately.
For sure, for
And
sure.
so it's actually a pretty sweet spot to be in, raising funds for a political candidate, because who are they reaching out to? The people with the net worth.
Yes. And actually, someone that I met through politics ended up being an investor in my first business. It kind of felt serendipitous, because obviously I really enjoyed the work, but I enjoyed most of all like meeting these people and hearing their stories. And shortly after that campaign, by my mid-20s, I had my own small little fundraising firm and I was taking on clients. And that was definitely the most entrepreneurial thing I'd done up to that point. I was working for myself.
Sure.
I wasn't working for the big man. That was kind of cool. And then it was just like one day, I feel like most entrepreneurs have this story. I just had an idea for a product for my apparel company. My grandmother on my mom's side was an avid Ohio State fan, as we all were, coming from Ohio State.
Ask a quick question?
Yeah.
You said you were doing fundraising. Had a fundraising firm. How was the apparel firm born? Was this the idea that sparked the apparel firm?
Well, no. I mean, there was nothing in politics or fundraising that led to my apparel idea. What led to my apparel idea was my grandmother and all the Ohio State merchandise she had from decades before in her basement. And she gave me a vintage sweater and I was like, whoa, this would be really cool to sell. it literally just was an idea that popped in my head. And like with any business I have, anyone can come up with a business, but you have to do the market research. You have to research competition. I very quickly learned that the industry was still saturated with t-shirts and sweatshirts, and it's a very reliable industry. Team
Sure.
spirit wear, right? Everyone's buying.
Everybody needs their
Yeah,
merch. Yeah.
they buy it for themselves, they buy them as gifts, and they're buying something new every year. And so I thought the volume is really high, the revenue is probably really high. There's a lot of schools out there. And by the way, no one is doing collegiate sweaters. So I was like, I can build a business out of this. Pretty quickly, I came to that realization. And back to your point about people like listen to what I've accomplished, let's say with that business, and they're like, oh my gosh, how does that happen? I mean, it's literally just one day at a time. It's a lot of creative thinking. Back then, we had technology, not even close to the technology we have now, but definitely used that to my advantage. And I was a young wife. I was a young mother at the time that I started this business. And so definitely on a shoestring budget. I was making pretty good money with my fundraising to the point where I could self-fund it a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I just got creative with the funds that I had. I had a friend who was in graphic design, and we just got together and I'm like, can you just sketch on paper what I have in my head? And so sketched out the designs, found a factory that would work with me overseas, and just started developing. That was probably the easier part of the business. Licensed apparel has a lot of hoops to jump through
Yeah.
to, yeah, I mean, even be able to sell. It's not like, oh, I have an idea for an apparel line. I'm going to procure it and I'm going to start selling it. I mean, you have to get permission from
Exactly.
each university. Yeah. So, like, logistically,
Ohio State has an opinion about whether you use their colors and image.
a little bit.
Yeah.
And the Ohio State University, I'm pretty
Yes.
sure they trademarked that too. Ohio State is a giant market. And obviously, it was my alma mater. So, I was passionate really just about getting the Ohio State license. And it wasn't until, again, I started doing that market research that I thought, well, actually, if I duplicate this at multiple schools, like my numbers get big pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I sort of self-funded that business for a while. I procured the line. Thankfully, I found a factory that just really worked with me every step of the way. Can we edit this? Can we finagle that? They were just so supportive that way,
Yeah.
and really were passionate about growing with us. And so I procured the first line, and I had like a handful of licenses, started selling just to like local family owned, mostly like mom and pop stores down on
Yeah.
campus.
Bookshops and coffee shops and yeah.
Yeah, things like that. And then once like the numbers started getting a little bit bigger, I kind of raised some friends and family money. I had some family investors, which allowed us to grow a little bit further. And then once I made my first real hire. Like I was going to start delegating. I hired a sales rep and he handled my licensing too. And within a couple years, we just kind of like you see in the movies, like we had that purchase order come through from Amazon. We had sold a buyer on our concepts, and we had a large enough license portfolio that we could get into a larger customer like that. And it kind of feels like an overnight success, even though it's
made it.
not overnight.
Yeah, exactly.
I've made it. I've made it. Yeah. And I will never forget like my husband and I embracing when that purchase order came through, and my sales rep is like, congratulations. And because I don't even know how many, it was probably like 6 years in, honestly, before that happened. Now, be careful what you wish for, though, because
Yeah,
we grew.
there's pros and cons to everything, and a lot of times,
Totally.
yeah, growth
Yeah,
is as much a nightmare as a blessing.
that's totally true. And I've been saying on all of my appearances that that's like a success part of my success story, but it's kind of boring. I just think failures are much more fascinating to talk about. And as much as I succeeded in that business, I failed too. And I think one of my like greatest failures was really trying to grow it too fast and not hiring a CEO. I would say I just wasn't equipped at that time. We have to
Mm.
remember I was like in my early 30s. It was my very first business. And by the way, a logistically complex business from every
Yes.
step, from every step.
Yes.
And
Well, and I think that's some people that people don't always realize. The mindset of a founder, what you need to succeed as a founder is very different than what you need to succeed with an established business.
there is, I couldn't have said it better myself. There's no doubt that founders, and it even, I met these founders on the campaign trail, and I knew they didn't run their, I mean, some of them ran their companies, but a lot of them didn't. A lot of them were just still there kind of as a figurehead, but there was
Or the
someone,
idea generator, or yeah.
yeah, like not the chairman of the board, but certainly not the CEO. And I didn't go to business school. And so I just think that I really wish I would have hired a CEO that grew it properly, because by the end of it, by the time that I exited, it was like time for me to go. My investors and I agreed that I was not the person to continue to grow this business.
Yeah.
And at the time, that kind of stung. But in hindsight, I wish I would have stepped away sooner, right? And positioned it a little bit better for growth, because it's also a highly expensive industry to be in, you know?
Yeah.
So if you've got that many SKUs and
There's a
that
lot of
many,
inventory and all kinds of
yeah,
supply chain, and yeah.
yeah. I mean, the purchase orders are giant because they're ordering for 12 schools, 24 schools, 36 schools, and we just weren't properly capitalized. So exiting was bittersweet. It was bittersweet, but
Well, you're
like,
letting
and
go of your baby. I mean, it's the
yeah,
same reason it's hard to say, okay, let's bring in a CEO.
yeah. And just thinking back, I think I've gotten over the shame I felt in surrounding the failures. I'm at peace with it now, because I'm like, you're being too hard on yourself. It was your first business, and by the way, you put product in market. People go out of business before that happens all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And our problem was maybe capital and organization. Our problem was never lack of customers, and that's something to be proud of. I mean, if you have someone that wants to buy your product, that's impressive. And so I'm
Yeah, and
really,
that's usually the place where businesses go wrong,
for sure.
is not having the demand for the thing they're doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like any twisted, addictive serial entrepreneur, I had something else in the works anyway, and I was ready to pursue that. And that was the patented lid that you
Yeah.
described in your intro.
Okay, and I want to hear more about that, but we are up on our first break already.
Okay.
What do you think would be a good thought exercise for the listeners over the break around some of the takeaways that you've got from your own journey? What should they be thinking about in terms of their own business?
Well, I say a lot that business owners, entrepreneurs, founders need to be very honest with themselves, brutally honest with themselves throughout the experience. Wish I had been more honest with myself about my abilities, right? If you have a business that's not growing, like we just mentioned, that you just can't find a customer for, be honest with yourself about that. Be ready to let go. I have a friend now who has a small business that she's just struggling to operate. She's got customers, but struggling to operate, logistically very complex. And she is not the type of founder who wants to bring on debt and to grow. And I'm like, time to be honest with yourself. It's time to be honest with yourself and maybe sell it and move on to something else. It's not a terrible thing. There's always something better on the other side of a difficult situation. So just be honest with yourselves.
Yeah, so spend some time with your pen and paper. Think about the places where things are not fitting, where it's pinching, and you don't have to decide on it right now, but at least be honest about what is the difficult point in your business, and hang with us. We'll be right back.
Oh, strike it loud, the wolf here. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. No fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is Sophia Morales. I am back with the amazing and wonderful Amanda Sima. And over the break, we asked you to think about the places in your business where it's becoming problematic, being really brutally honest with yourself about, are you the person to be doing the thing? Do you need to hire someone else? Now that you've got your list, you can start to think about, How do we do it differently? Do we need to pivot to another customer? Do I need to outsource? Do I need to just delegate certain aspects of what I'm doing? Do I need to hire a CEO who can operate the thing? Once you've got it in front of you, then there are places you can go to make decisions and to figure out a way through. So I'm glad you took the time to do that exercise. And speaking of figuring out a way through, Amanda, when you started your apparel licensing business or licensing apparel business, I'm not sure what order that's supposed to be, I understood you had a little corporate theft that happened.
I did, unfortunately.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, with everyone's business, especially, if it's a consumer product, you get to a point where you certainly hold things close to your vest, right? Because we're all afraid of copycats and we're all afraid of someone stealing your idea or stealing your product. It's a real thing, it really happens, but everyone gets to a point in their business where you have to expose yourself somehow to just start growing and
Yeah.
selling, right?
Yeah,
And
you can't
so
hide behind the scenes.
no, you can't. I mean, it's smart to do that up until you really just can't. And you have to put yourself out there. And so I was at that point. I thought, well, I need to hire a sales rep to maybe start having conversations with some of these larger customers. I was a B2B business, I was a wholesale business. And so I wanted to get in these corporate doors. And I was an entrepreneur and a founder, and I wasn't a sales rep. I didn't have these relationships. So I was referred to someone that was a sales rep for a larger competitor. I didn't see the problem because they did t-shirts and sweatshirts. They didn't do fashion. They certainly
Right.
didn't do knits. They weren't set up for that. And so I met with the sales rep. He said, all day long, I can sell these for you. And I walked out of that meeting feeling invigorated, like justified in my product. And hey, we're like off to the races.
Yeah.
And also in licensing too. So Ohio State at the time had an apparel company who was the interface for licensing. So like every university has some kind of contracted company that handles their licensing. They outsource that. At the time, Ohio State had implemented sort of a new business model. They had one apparel company who was their main licensee, and then everyone else in apparel was a sub-licensee of that company. I didn't feel comfortable with that because the licensing process, you have to submit every detail of your business for them. I mean, it's not only like, hey, you have a cool product.
It's all of your IP. Yeah.
It's all your IP. Are you sourcing ethically? What's your factory like? And so, yeah,
It's everything that you need to be able to go do it, basically.
major trade secret information. And so super excited, applied for the Ohio State license with this apparel company, asked them to sign an NDA. They're like, no, we don't do that. So I'm like, okay, I guess I have no choice. I have to apply through you. So I applied and they were like, congrats, you got the license. Oh, at that point, obviously I was excited. My investors were excited. That's a giant license to get.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it was personally meaningful to you.
Personally meaningful. I was thrilled to financially support my alma mater in this way. And then after I met with that sales rep who represented that company.
Oh, okay. So this wasn't a random other competitor. Okay.
No, he represented that company. And then a couple weeks later, I get an email, sorry, that was a mistake. You don't get the license. And I'm like,
me?
Oh, yeah, we were like,
there's no backsies. What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, there's no reasoning given, just that it was like a mistake. And I was devastated. And I went to my uncle, who was my investor. And it just so happens that he had contacts at Ohio State. I had contacts at Ohio State. So we were airing to the university our grievances. And at the same time, he was an executive for an apparel company. And so he said, maybe check with your factory and make sure nothing fishy is going on.
Yeah.
And that never even crossed my mind, that maybe I now didn't get the license because someone took my stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I went to my factory that night and said, has a company with this name reached out to you? And they said, yes. And I was like, by the way, never in a million years had I expected them to say yes. And they said yes, and they showed me all the correspondence. Not only had that company reached out to them about manufacturing, they sent them like identical designs to so
Oh,
suddenly
wow.
now they're doing sweaters. And
Oh,
so I scheduled a call with the CEO of that apparel company and got him on
excellent.
the phone. Yep. I told him what happened. And honestly, his reaction was, my team did that. And I said they did. And he said, apologies, we'll knock it off. And you got the license. Now, did I have a trade secret case? I absolutely had a trade secret case against that company, but I didn't want that. I wanted to sell
Yeah,
my
you wanted,
product.
yeah, you
Yeah.
wanted to do Ohio State sweaters.
Yeah. So we're like, okay, water under the bridge.
Let's just do
Let's
this. Yeah.
let's do this. I think an important takeaway from that tale for your listeners is don't just go away if something like that happens. Make
Yeah.
your voice heard because you don't know. I mean, he could have said
And
that
and
didn't
do
happen.
some research, do some due diligence, right?
Absolutely.
Because if you
Yeah,
just stopped at the "oh, we made a mistake" email, you'd have never found out.
absolutely.
Unless your factory for some reason went out of their way to go, did you know that this is going on?
Yeah, you got to continue to fight for sure in situations like that. I'm so glad I did. And so, yeah, that was the first hard lesson I had in corporate piracy. And I thought I'm going to make a positive out of a negative. Quite flattering, honestly, that a company that size saw value in what I created. Doesn't make their conduct okay, but
No, no, it doesn't. And honestly, I would rather have somebody say good job than to steal my work.
yeah, for sure, for sure. It's like, by the way, I'm an underdog. I'm not even capitalized close to the size of that
Anything like
company.
they are, yeah.
No, no. And you know what? I still prevailed. So don't just go away if something unfortunate like that happens to you. And it's going to happen if you create something novel. But definitely don't go away. Have conversations and fight for
Yeah.
your product.
It's like dealing with the insurance company. Don't take
Mhm.
the first denial
That's
because they reflexively do that. Just go back,
That's a
keep going
great
back.
analogy. It's a great analogy. Listen, these corporations, it's part of their business model
Yeah.
to take what they think they can, and they get away with it a lot of times. Some will take patented products because they're just
Because they
betting,
can. Yeah.
yeah, they're betting you don't have $2 million to
To fight
litigate it
them.
in court. Right.
Yeah.
So that was my first hard lesson in corporate piracy.
Excellent. And what was your second lesson in corporate piracy?
My second lesson, oh, my lid.
Yeah, your lid. Let's talk
Yes.
about the lid.
Woo. Okay, let's talk about the lid because that's ongoing and it's also another sensational story. In fact, I had one attorney ask me if I had walked under a ladder when I was younger with the bad luck I've experienced in this realm. But yeah, so my plastic lid is, I've created a lot of things that I have put in market that I haven't put in market. I am so proud of this product. Mostly because, if you have some STEM listeners, like, did I ever see myself in plastics and really delving into engineering the way that I did? I mean, any entrepreneur who starts a business has to learn the industry in and out,
Yes.
and never saw myself in plastics. But yes, I had a 2-year-old toddler who had sippy cups at home, and I'm tired of her. When we go out to eat with the restaurant kids cup, they tip it up like they do at home and it spills out the straw or they knock it over.
Lid pops off,
The
or
lid
yeah.
always pops off. It's the worst product for children. But they want a restaurant cup. They don't want the cup from home. And I don't know, just one day out to dinner, I thought, why don't they have disposable lids for kids? They have disposable lids for adults. Why not disposable lids for kids? Surely this already exists, right?
Yeah.
And so I was doing research. Nothing like this exists that's in my head. And so I designed a lid. I found a local engineer. He actually built airplanes, but he was referred to me because he had a 3D printer or something. And he
Yeah,
was nice
exactly.
enough.
So let's go with the aerospace guy.
He was an aerospace guy, brilliant. And he was nice enough to take on my project. 20 minutes from my house. So we sat down a few times and I said, I know it sounds crazy, but I want a disposable plastic lid that looks like this. A sippy spout for young children. There's also a straw slot for older kids. And you kind of need that hole there anyway for the vent for
Right.
it to suction out. And then I said, I don't want it to pop off. I want sort of extended plastic around the rim. So when you knock it over, it's kind of like a shock absorber. The lid
Yeah.
doesn't pop off. Spill-proof lid for kids, multi-use. globally unique, absolutely novel, couldn't find it anywhere. Nothing exactly like my lid. And so pretty quickly recruited an investor after I finalized the prototype and I found a factory in China and knew we had to invest in some tooling. And again, did my research, very, very high volume industry.
Oh,
This
yeah.
to me legitimately was like, this is my $1 billion idea. I've always thought, and most entrepreneurs do, that I could make $1 billion product.
Yeah.
And this, to me, this was it, because the volume is multiple billions worldwide. It's just a high volume category and it's globally unique. We really don't have competition,
Well,
right?
yeah, and there's always going to be 3-year-olds,
Yes, and
and they're disposable, and yeah.
yeah, or like recyclable. And this was just serendipitously around the time that the world was going strawless. So we had a strawless cup for kids, which you could sell that to
Ding, ding, ding,
Starbucks.
ding. Yeah.
Crazy, crazy. And I think that's why I really had no problem bringing on an investor and a very talented man who was self-made, knew distribution well. And yeah, I recruited an investor. We purchased the tooling and I start selling. Okay. I did apply for a design patent through all of this. And so you think that can ward off just on all of my materials
Yeah,
if it
you
says
had
patent.
some, yeah,
I was first in
protection.
line. Yeah.
Yep.
So if anyone tried to patent something similar, I was first in line. And even though that's a long process, it gave me a little bit of peace of mind that it would ward off competitors. Like, well, she's already got a patent going on it, not
Yeah,
worth
we should
knocking
probably
off.
not, yeah, go there.
But that didn't happen. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, exact same situation. I met with a sales rep when I was ready to start sort of exposing it. We were not yet in market. And he said, you know, it's funny. The first thing he said to me when I met with him, because I knew that he represented a larger plastics corporation. And the first thing he said to me when he had it in his hands was, you should sell this to X company. And I was like, yeah, I definitely want to sell it at some point, sell the design,
the licensing rights,
and the patent.
yeah.
But I said, I kind of want to scale it first so I can get a large number for it. But I'm totally open to that at some point, you know? And so we kind of walked away from that meeting. He had my materials, he had my product, and said, I'm going to help you. And then I didn't hear back from him.
I'm seeing an ugly pattern around sales reps here.
Yeah, there's so many of them. So it's not like you can get every single one to sign an NDA. That's just not kind of how it works. And it's an industry too with sales reps where your reputation matters and your reputation is your business. And a lot of them don't really behave this way. But unfortunately, I've had people come into my life that have. And so all I know is I met with him, and then 3 months later, his client had a copycat product in market. And it wasn't only a copycat product. Their marketing materials were exactly like mine, which I had given to him. And
It just took everything and went ditto.
Yeah. And it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation, by the way. It's not just a small like mom and pop manufacturer down the street. It's
just like, I'm trying to get through the day
like,
sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like global at this time. So like,
all right, I'm going to pause you because we're up on our second break.
Okay.
And I guess what I'd like to put out there for you, dear listener, over this break is spend some time around your ideas and which ones do you feel like have legs, and spend some time thinking about how you might be able to protect those ideas when you're in the act of promoting them, right? Because that's where the danger starts to appear. It's not when you're behind closed doors developing it, it's when you're trying to go into the marketplace and get traction. So think about the ways in which you can protect your ideas, and hang with us. We'll be right back from the break.
Oh, strength allowed the wolf here. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. No fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is Sophia Morales, and I'm back with the amazing, wonderful Amanda Sima. And before the break, you were sharing that they had literally ripped you off right down to the marketing materials.
That's right.
So where did you go from there?
I'm still there. I'm still there where I went. And so what happened was, if I'm being honest, when I first saw it in market, I sent it to my investor right away. And I wasn't scared, oddly enough. I was like really flattered because this was a really big company. And in my mind, I thought I had legal recourse. So I wasn't
Sure.
panicking, you
Yeah.
know? I was more like, oh, well, okay, obviously it's a cool product, but it did not end up as happily ever after. I think it made my investor really nervous. So he dropped out. He was
Oh,
done.
he's like, I'm out.
Yeah, he's out, and we were out of business overnight. I tried to raise money through other avenues to keep the business alive, but
Sure.
I've got a multi-billion-dollar corporation with a copycat product in market, and they're in global doors. Good luck finding an investor who's interested in competing with that, right? And so
Yeah.
it just didn't go anywhere. And
And so what happened to your patent protection?
so I started making calls to attorneys, and everyone is just saying, you don't have a patent case. At the time, I had a patent attorney. She said the same thing because I had a design patent, and a
Yeah.
design patent protects how your product looks.
Looks.
If a customer can look at both and see a difference, there is no patent case. And so I sat for 2 years, like, I thinking about what I was going to do next, abandoning the business, thinking I had no legal recourse. And it wasn't until a
So,
few
question for you,
Mhm.
right? Because there are design patents and then there are utility patents. Did your attorney not talk to you about having both?
We spoke about it extensively. I adamantly wanted one. My patent attorney in the beginning actually tried to talk me out of a design patent because she's an attorney, she's not a
Yeah.
business person, but she's like, this is such a common product. I can't imagine that you would get a design patent for it. And I said, no, it's not a common product. Trust me, I've done my research. We did a patent search. She's like, okay, we can apply. I don't think you'll get it, but let's apply. And I did get it. And she was shocked when I did get it. And by the way, I got a US patent and I got a European Union patent on it. So
Oh,
when I say it was globally unique, it was globally unique. But she, at the time, same advice. Design patents are expensive. They're really hard to get. You'll never get it. And my investor who was cutting the checks agreed. And so I was overruled on that. So it was
mm,
bad advice. It was bad legal advice because, then I sat on this for 2 years thinking I had no recourse. I started doing random research just to see a few years ago, oh, do they have the product in market still? And something in me said, check the patent office. And I did. And sure enough, that corporation went and got a utility patent.
oh,
And
shit.
so now, even if I wanted to compete with them and I
You
scaled
can't.
I
Yeah.
can't because our products function the same. And that lit a fire under me because I said, that was my design. That was my concept. That was my idea that was taken from me. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
And so I started calling attorneys again. And thankfully, at this point, I came across a couple attorneys who were like, yeah, based on what you're telling me, you don't have a patent case, but you have other claims. You have trade secret theft claims, you have breach of contract claims, you have unjust enrichment claims. I had no idea what these were.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Okay. Yeah, because I do feel like I was wronged. Now, are the defendants and the bad actors that in my claims, are they all saying they didn't do what they did? Absolutely. They're denying
Yeah.
it.
Well, I mean, that's how it always starts,
That's how
right?
it starts. But I'm like, okay, we'll let the legal process determine that. And so I hired an attorney. I hired two attorneys in Ohio. One was in Ohio and one was in Chicago. And at this point, I was like 8 months away from my statute of limitations because you have a 4-year deadline to
Claim
file a
period. Yeah.
lawsuit. Yeah.
Hmm.
And over a period of 6 months, I had an attorney, the partner on my case, we were not agreeing on a lot. And I just felt like it was a lot of billing and expensive for us to
And
just not be like agreeing.
and moving forward in some way. Yeah.
Yeah, because he started out really excited and telling me that my claims were worth a lot of money and that we were pretty sure we would survive a motion to dismiss if we did file a suit. And then as it drug on, we were disagreeing on very key points of my claims. And so I retained this firm in October of 2022. By April 2023, my suspicions were really at its highest, and I was terminated as a client by the law firm.
Oh,
with
surprise.
Really, yeah, with really no explanation. I was super bummed out, but I didn't put two and two together until, okay, I know I'm less than 90 days away now from my statute of limitations.
Shopping for another attorney.
Now I've got to start all of this over. And I had an attorney that I spoke to, said, I'm really interested in your case. I obviously want to talk to the partner, the old partner on your case, get his thoughts. I'm like, yeah, sure. Here's his name. Here's his number. And an hour later, that attorney followed up with me and said, the partner on your case is now working for the corporation's law firm.
Oh, wow.
And
okay. So they hired him to make it go away.
Well, my claims are just that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But come to find out that he was negotiating employment for himself and other attorneys in the law firm the entire time he was representing me.
Oh, wow.
And even if that was, whoops, I didn't know, that's a breach of duty in a big way, And so I am now in litigation against the corporation. I'm in litigation against my old law firm, my old lawyer, and I'm in litigation against the law firm who's representing the corporation. So it's kind of now layer after layer after layer of betrayal, right?
Yeah, and attorneys at dawn. Yeah.
Yeah, because I lost my product. I lost my case against this corporation, right? I'm feeling like my case is tainted, right? Because I don't know what's been shared. And so I'm going on year 3 in my legal battle, and I'm not going away and until we engage in some kind of discovery to find out what happened, and more importantly, to find out how the copycat product got into market, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's really what we want to determine. And so the reason that I'm talking about it is because I think there's a lot of creators and founders who this has happened to, and they just go away. They're like, and I almost went away, by the way.
Well, yeah, it's intimidating. I mean, lawyers and retainers, and who knows where it ends. And
yeah, and by the way, kind of not trusting attorneys right now. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
I've got to go hire but you know what? That's not acceptable for me to go away. It's not acceptable. My husband and I, we sold our house. We put every asset we had into that business, and for it to just be gone overnight, and our inability to recoup anything because of that utility patent is not acceptable. And this kind of conduct is just not acceptable. I always use the analogy of, in this country, we have antitrust laws, and that dissuades large corporations ganging up together at the expense of the consumer. But the reality is that corporations do grow like this, slowly behind the scenes on the backs of creators. And why can't we have a conversation about that? And why can't we create some kind of small movement where the idea surrounding financial freedom is accessible to anyone? It should not be that easy to
rip someone
off.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, I spoke to one attorney about my case, and he said, well, even if they did take it, aren't they in a better position to scale it than you? And I'm like, you're a jerk.
What the hell? That's meaningless. That's meaningless.
And I'm a cat.
The only thing you would do with that information is go, okay, well, maybe I'll work out a licensing deal with them so that they can deal with the growth headaches, and I just rake in the money.
If you want something, you buy it.
They should just be able to take it? No.
Yeah, no. And I'm a free market capitalist all day long, but there's a limit. And when it hits home like it does with me, and by the way, in my litigation, it's not even really being argued that what my attorney did was wrong. They're arguing that I wasn't harmed by it. And there's and it's stupid legal loopholes like that really is a disgrace.
I wasn't harmed by it. You ate up 6 months of my tiny bit of remaining time and made me start over. Yeah, that's a harm.
Highly complex case.
Yeah. After months and months of billables that I could now be putting it. Yeah, no, I've clearly been harmed. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And
So, what has come out of this for you? I know it has lit a fire under you to make sure this doesn't happen to other people.
oh, entrepreneurial advocacy, like I mentioned earlier, how do we turn a negative into a positive? And that's what good entrepreneurs do. So, entrepreneurial advocacy, I'm very, very passionate about. Why I started my podcast platform, where entrepreneurs, founders, creators, inventors, even non entrepreneurs, to be honest, can submit questions to me for free advice. I've already gotten inquiries from inventors who are like nervous about putting their product out there.
Sure.
I got an inquiry from someone, exact same thing. My attorney told me not to get a utility patent. I'm like, oh my God, if my story touches one person like
Yeah.
that
If you
protects
could go back and do it again, I'll bet you would not have backed down on the utility patent.
1000%.
Yeah.
If my investor didn't want to pay for it, I would have found the money. Now, would I still have gotten copied in market? Maybe.
Yeah,
but
they
it would have
probably
been
would have tried, but you would have had more firepower behind you.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been probably more of a settlement territory than litigation. If I could go back, I would have absolutely not backed down on that. And I think that there's a lot of myths out there about starting businesses. I think that there's a lot of rackets with, hey, buy my $2,000 package and I'll,
Yeah.
and I'll
We'll make
consult you.
everything happy for you. Yeah.
Yeah, but my platform is called Brain on Loan, and it's literally just that, my brain on loan to you. I think entrepreneurs like myself who have been through struggles like this at the highest levels and have worn every hat in the business have immeasurable value to bring to people who haven't experienced it. It's kind of turning that pain into valuable advice. And we're just able to unpack and organize complex situations, whether it's business related or not, that most people aren't. And yeah, I'm just like, how can I help people? How can I help people avoid maybe my situation, or maybe someone who's going through it? How can I help them navigate it? Because this is pretty sensational drama, what I'm going through, all because
most entrepreneurs don't end up in this space.
Absolutely not. I'm glad that you said that, because I certainly don't want to scare anyone from creating. It's an absolute myth that corporations don't steal. They do. But there's protection.
The better your idea is, the more likely they are to rip it off. So yeah.
100%. And
pay for the patent.
Pay for the patent. Absolutely.
Pay for the patent.
Yeah, the design patent is kind of largely useless. I'm going to kind of talk out of both sides of my mouth right now. I feel like design patents are they're important. Go get it. And really, especially with technology these days, you can do it pretty cheaply, but it didn't help me. You know what I mean?
The utility patent is where it is.
The utility patent is where the real protection is. And there's other protections too that we talk about on my podcast that you can put into place that I think are even stronger than NDAs and patent protections. But definitely easy boxes to check, easy stuff to do in the beginning. And it's just things like that if anyone can learn anything from my experiences, I'm really happy about that. So that's really what's resulted in from all of this, is just spending my time positively and giving back to the community and being an advocate for smaller creators.
I love that. We are up on the end of our show here. If you were to give our listeners your final word of advice and encouragement, what would that be?
Yeah, I'm a really big proponent of embracing setbacks and embracing pain. I'll never forget my sister, when this all happened, saying to me, I would be in a hospital, like if I was going through this. And I think an important takeaway is that any road to greatness, whether you have a business or not, any road to just improving yourself and being better involves setbacks, it involves failures, it involves pain. And you should not only expect it, you should happily anticipate it. These are gifts that are being given to you that you will grow from. And by the way, you go into any struggle with that mindset, you're going to come out on the other side a better person. So I say to all my listeners, lean into it, happily anticipate pain. Everything's better on the other side, and you will grow into a tremendous person because of it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today, Amanda.
Thank you for having me.
And for the listeners out there, check the show notes for links to connect with Amanda, to get engaged with her podcast, to pick her brain. And until next week, go out, be bold, be beautiful, and be authentically you.